Lies, fakes, twisting the facts and other products made by the Russian propaganda machine in the upcoming review made by my colleague Sofia. Sofia, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Hi, Volodymyr. Dirty bomb and combat mosquitoes. Russian authorities were left with no arguments explaining to Russians why their troops are losing on the battlefield. So Kremlin uses its traditional methods, lying and creating insane fakes.
According to the description, such a drone transports a container with a large number of mosquitoes, the carriers of infections, to a targeted area and releases them. While biting, mosquitoes infect people with pathogens of particularly dangerous diseases. The explanation directly emphasizes that an infected serviceman will be unable to perform the tasks assigned to them, concluding that the disease can be a more valuable military tool than the most modern weapons and military equipment.
So, according to Mr. Nebenzia, those terrifying mosquitoes somehow can determine specifically Russian soldiers and attack them so destructively they can no longer fight. Well, this is probably the valid reason of explaining Russian army losses, which reach 73,000 dead soldiers this week. Amid fresh Russian claims, the United Nations Security Council members stated there is no evidence of any biological weapon programs in Ukraine. Meanwhile, the permanent representative of Albania to the United Nations, Ferit Holja, has asked, how can a mosquito distinguish between Russians and Ukrainians?
We cannot be thrown and stay in the propaganda courtyard just because Russia has decided to talk to and listen to itself and misuse the Council, exporting a distorted reality. We heard again today a lot of accusations, including about different pathogens and deadly mosquitoes. I wonder how those mosquitoes would be able to distinguish between Russians and Ukrainians.
All Russian statements about biological weapons in Ukraine created by American laboratories are fabrication. The United States Biological Threat Reduction Program does exist. However, it collaborates with countries and partners to counter the threat of outbreaks of the world's most infectious diseases. And before 2014, it was in Russia as well.
The Russian Federation has repeatedly spread disinformation, including wild claims involving dirty bombs, chemical weapons. How much more of this nonsense do we have to endure?
Colleagues, I'm going to keep my remarks short because, frankly, this meeting is a waste of everyone's time. Russia has called us here once again for the sole purpose of spreading disinformation.
Well, the reaction of the head of the Office of the President of Ukraine, Andriy Yermak, can sum up Russia's agony.
Combat mosquitoes, dirty bombs. It is already too late to treat patients there. They should be placed in and isolated in the chamber called Russia.
Russian propaganda has also worked this week on undermining the trust of Ukraine's partners who supply the armed forces of Ukraine with weapons. According to the Finnish National Bureau of Investigation, weapons sent to Ukraine may have found their way back to Finland and have ended up in the hands of the criminal underground. This information lived a day and turned out to be fake. The Ministry of Internal Affairs of Ukraine stated, Kremlin campaigners willingly provoke the creation of dangerous misinformations regarding the state of affairs in Ukraine.
From a very beginning of full-scale war, when weapons from the West just started coming, Russia talks about it. Even early in January, Kremlin propagandists said, if supply Ukraine with weapons, they will pop up somewhere on the black market. There is nothing new here, Finland or not Finland, it could be every other country.
And yes, about other countries. Great Britain has also become a target for Russian propaganda this week. Kremlin accused Ukraine of carrying out a massive drone attack on a Black Sea fleet in the Crimean port city of Sevastopol, damaging one warship. And not just only Ukraine, but Great Britain as well.
It is the British Special Services who have enormous experience in carrying out such sabotage, like with the Nord Stream and Nord Stream 2 pipelines. So it is in the Bay of Sevastopol, and now the reason for London's participation in these terrorist attacks was the use of British technologies regarding underwater drones, and judging by the fragments that Russian specialists managed to collect, I am absolutely sure that this is an English production. This is a completely non-Ukrainian technology.
Damages of the fleet are a painful loss for Russians, as it equals military opportunity loss. This attack might be a massive Russian provocation to block Ukraine grain export deal and replace Ukraine in global grain supplies, Espresso TV political reviewer Olga Leny says.
Mentioning Great Britain was a method of brightening the plot. Russians do not want to talk about Ukraine only. They say they are fighting not with Ukraine, but NATO and other countries. Earlier, they said Russia is fighting with the United States of America. But the thing is, at the G20 summit, Kremlin plans to talk to Biden, so it was not a perfect time to accuse the US of blowing something.
Besides creating fakes, Russian army has been shelling peaceful Ukrainian cities and towns, targeting energy infrastructure. In general, Kremlin army damaged 40% of power facilities, President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky says. Meanwhile, so-called Russian journalists are gloating. Will they want peace in Ukraine when they are left without electricity? And we say yes, not just peace, but victory. The victory of light over darkness, the victory of Ukraine over Russia, no matter what the allies are. Volodymyr, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sofia. That's right. Despite of the dark times, let's hope for the bright future.